I decided just to go back live again because the book is actually getting pretty good. I didn't think I was going to be very interested in it. Well, I knew I was going to be interested because I watched the TV show. But yeah. He never got to finish his. At that moment, the blue-haired boy, with a high, yowling cry, tore free of his restraints, binding him to the pillar, and flung himself on Jace. They fell to the ground and rolled together. The blue-haired boy tearing at Jace with his hands that glittered as if tipped with metal. Clary backed up, wanting to run, but her feet caught on a loop of wiring as she went down, knocking the breath out of her chest. She could hear Isabel shrieking. Rolling over, Clary saw the blue-haired boy sitting on Jason's chest, blood gleaming at the tips of his razor-like claws. Isabel and Alec were running toward him. Isabel, brandishing a whip in her hand. The blue-haired boy slashed at Jace with claws extended. Jace threw an arm up to protect himself, and the claws raked it, splattering blood. The blue-haired boy lunged again, and Isabel's whip came down across his back. He shrieked and fell to the side. Swift as a flick of Isabel's whip, Jace rolled over. There was a blade gleaming in his hand. He sank the knife into the blue-haired boy's chest. Blackish liquid exploded around the hilt. The boy arched off the floor, gurgling and twisting. With a grimace, Jace stood up. His black shirt was blacker now in some place, wet with blood. He looked down at the twitching form at his feet, reached down and yanked out the knife. The hilt was slick with black fluid. The blue-haired boy's eyes flickered open. His eyes fixed on me. Jay seemed to burn. Between his teeth, he hissed, "So be it. The Forsaken will take you all." Jay seemed to snarl. The boy's eyes rolled back. His body began to jerk and twitch as he crumbled, folding in on himself, growing smaller and smaller until he vanished entirely. Clary scrambled to her feet, kicking free of the electrical wiring. She began to back away. None of them were paying attention to her. Alec had reached Jace and was holding his arm, pulling at his sleeve, probably trying to get a good look at the wound. Clary turned to run and found her way blocked by Isabel, whip in hand. The gold length of it was stained with black fluid. She flicked it towards Clary, and the end wrapped itself around her wrist and jerked tight. Clary gasped with pain and surprise. "Stupid little Mundy," Isabel said between her teeth. "You could have gotten Jace killed." "He's crazy," Clary said, trying to pull her wrist back. The whip bit deeper into her skin. "You're all crazy. What do you think you are, vigilante killers?" The police aren't usually interested unless you can produce a body," said Jace, cradling his arm. He picked his way across the cables strew floor toward Clary. Alec followed behind him, face screwed into a scowl. Clary glanced at the spot where the boy had disappeared from and said nothing. There wasn't even a smear of blood there. Nothing to show that the boy had ever existed. They returned to their home diminished when they die, said Jace, in case you were wondering. "Jace," Alec hissed, "be careful." Jace drew his arm away. A ghoulish frickling of blood marked his face. He still remained here. Reminded her. He still reminded her of a lion with his wide-spaced, light-colored eyes and that tawny gold hair. He could see us, Alec. She could see us, Alec. He said, "She already knows too much." "So what do you want me to do with her?" Isabel demanded. "Let her go," Jay said quietly. Isabel shot him a surprised, almost angry look, but didn't argue. The whip slithered away, freeing Clary's arms. She rubbed her sore wrist and wondered how the hell she was going to get out of there. Maybe we should bring her back with us, Alex said. I bet Hodge would like to talk to her. No way are we bringing her to the Institute, said Isabel. She's a Monday. Or is she? Said Jay softly. His quiet tone was worse than Isabel's snapping or Alex anger. How have you had dealings with demons, little girl? Walked with warlocks, talked with the night children, have you? My name is not little girl, Clary interrupted, and I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't you? Said a voice in the back of her head. You saw that boy vanish into thin air. Jace isn't crazy. You just wish he was. I don't believe in demons or whatever you, Clary. It was Simon's voice. She whirled around. He was standing by the storage room door. One of the burly bouncers who'd been stamping hands at the front of the door was next to him. Are you okay? He peered at her through the gloom. Why are you in here by yourself? What happened to the guys? The ones with the knives. Claire stared at him, then looked behind her where Jace, Isabel, and Alex stood. Jace still in his bloody shirt with a knife in his hand. He grinned at her and dropped a half apologetic, half mocking shrug. Clearly he wasn't surprised that neither Simon nor the bouncer could see him. Somehow neither was Clary. Slowly she turned back to Simon, knowing how she must look to him standing alone in a damp storage room, her feet tangled in bright plastic wiring cables. I thought they went in here, she said lamely, but I guess they didn't. I'm sorry. She glanced from Simon, whose expression was changing from worried to embarrassed, to the bouncer, um, who just looked annoyed. It was a mistake. Behind her, Isabel giggled. I don't believe it, Simon said stubbornly as Clary, standing at the curb, tried desperately to hail a cab. Street cleaners had come down Orchard. We got an Orchard Road out here. Oh, I didn't even set the timer. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Let me put 25.
Okay, your timer is.
Yeah, shut up. Street cleaners had come down Orchard while they were inside the club, and the street was glossed black with oily water. I knew, she argued. You think there'd be some calves. Where where is everyone going at midnight on a Sunday? She turned back to him, shrugging. You think we'd have better luck on Houston? Not the Cavs, Simon said. You. I don't believe you. I don't believe those guys with knives just disappeared. Clary sighed. Maybe there weren't any guys with knives, Simon. Simon, maybe I just imagined the whole thing. No way. Simon raised his hand over his head. By the oncoming taxi whizzled by him, spraying dirty water. I saw your face when I came into the storage room. You looked seriously freaked out, like you'd seen a ghost. Clary thought of Jace with his lying cat eyes. She glanced down at her wrist, braceleted by a thin red line where Isabel's whip had curled. No, not a ghost, she thought. Something even weirder than that. It was just a mistake, she said wearily. She wondered why she wasn't telling him the truth, except, of course, that he'd think she was crazy. And there was something about what had happened. Something about the black blood bubbling up around Jace's knife. Something about his voice when he said, "Have you talked to the night children?" That she wanted to keep to herself. Well, well, it was a hell of an embarrassing mistake, Simon said. He glanced back to the club where a thin line still snaked out of the door. A thin line still snaked out of the door halfway down the block. I doubt they'll ever let us back into the pandemonium. What do you care? You hate the pandemonium. Clary raised her hand again as a yellow shape sped toward toward them through the fog. This time, though, the taxi screeched to a halt at their corner. The driver laying into his horn as if he needed to get their attention. Finally we get lucky. Simon yanked the taxi door open and slid onto the plastic-covered back seat. Clary followed, inhaling the familiar New York cab smell of old cigarette smoke, leather, and hairspray. "We're going to Brooklyn," Simon said to the cabbie, and then he turned to Clary. "Look, you know you can tell me anything, right?" Clary hesitated a moment, then nodded. "Sure, Simon," she said. "I know I can." She slammed the cab door shut behind her, and the taxi took off into the night. I'm gonna stop right here because that starts on chapter 2, and I want to kind of read another book. Like I book jump, so right now I'm reading this book. I'm reading GLBTQ book. It's like a guidebook, and then I'm reading Twilight. And I'm reading the selection. So yeah, I'll be back.